Let's go. Let's get Facebook started. That's straight. I don't know why it takes that long to start to get onto Facebook. But what I'm going to do is hopefully this will stop spooling. But I want to welcome everybody to the Author Showcase, brought to you by the National Black Unity newspaper and J&F Enterprises, where we are bringing you some of the country's just phenomenal writers, authors, and those that are in the literary world and industry that are just blazing trails for us. Have some great writings and some great books, whether fiction or nonfiction. We just wanted to be able to showcase them and highlight them so that people can get to know who they are, give them a platform to be able to showcase who they are, their mission, their messages, their movements, the motivation that they provide, all of those things that we look to have from them. And tonight on our author showcase, we have, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself in a minute because I don't do the bios. I let them I let the author tell us about who they are and everything. So I'm gonna give him the floor in just a second. Um, but Arthur Hurley is our author. He is an author, not just an author, but a multiple author, and we'll talk about that. Multiple book author, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we get into the conversation, amongst every other thing. But he is also an editor, writer, as well. So he's just he does a plethora of things in the book and publishing industry. So it's going to be a great to be able to talk to him about those different things that he has going on. So I want to welcome to the showcase Mr. Arthur Hurley. How are you this evening, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Nice to be on your show.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you were able to come and join us and be a part of the author showcase. So thank you for taking time out of your what I know is that busy schedule of yours and joining us this evening. So I appreciate it very much.
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
So I want to start off, and usually the way that I start off is by having the folks tell us a little bit about themselves, just to give the viewing audience a little background on who you are, what you do, and then how you started on this author journey that you're on.
Okay. Well, right now, currently, I'm actually writing under two pens. This is something new for me that has started really over with the release of this last book.
Uh huh.
Decided to go under my government name as far as the my pen is concerned. So I'm writing under author Hurley Morgan, but I
Hmm.
started the journey writing under H.M. Trey, which is actually my name, and I'm the third, Hurley Morgan the third.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's I broke it down H.M. Trey, which I thought was pretty cool and pretty neat, and also carries the legacy basically of my father, and everything. So, but I started this writing game in what 2008 maybe,
Wow.
and it was more or less of a challenge, whether or not I could actually do it. I started off writing a book, and I didn't really think I would finish it. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna see what it's like to write a book. And then as I got going into it, I said I might as well finish the book. But writing is something that I've always enjoyed doing as far as young as I can remember, because poetry was my main
Ah.
my main love starting off as, as a little kid, writing the little poems for your mom and those kind of things. But I enjoyed doing it, and it kind of stuck with me into high school, going into college, and fresh out of college. I wrote a lot of poetry.
Oh, okay, okay,
But the poetry part, turned into me actually writing and enjoying the writing. And once I started writing, I just fell in love with it, and I've just been blessed, running across many, many different talents over the years since 2008. I
mm-hmm.
mean, phenomenal writers and from phenomenal influences that has put me in a position of all the writing that I'm currently doing. So even I can say with my work writing as well. So, but yeah, I've been writing really novels since 2008, and I have actually 8 books, but the first one was written under Author House, which was, I didn't know who to go to for writing, so I went to, Author House to get my writing done. Didn't really like how they was doing, and then I got
Mm.
blessed by following into the laps of my editor, Lorraine, which introduced me to Peace in the Storm and Elisa, which they went from there. So I've written now 7 novels under Peace in the Storm Publishing, with many, many more on the front. I'm actually writing in like 2 or 3 now. So, but as far as genres that I usually was with the contemporary writing, contemporary romance, and
Okay,
then I've been venturing here lately, trying to figure out which direction, because my base is really spiritual. My mom
okay,
kept me in the church. And so growing up, I've always been that spiritual type. No matter where I'm at, what I'm doing, even if I had those moments where I wasn't necessarily attending church, I always had that spiritual base. Because my mom always kept me grounded, even in those instances. So I've included now Christian fiction in my repertoire, and just to expound on my writing a little bit. I'm also doing kind of some urban stuff as well,
mm.
which is new as well. So Christian and urban, which is 2 extremes, which
Right.
kind of see how that's gonna go. Just because I love writing, just want to see what I want to do with it, and those kind of things. But as far as my pen names are concerned, H.M. Trey, which would cover the contemporary fiction and cover like urban lit and those kind of things. But author Hurley Morgan will cover my Christian fiction and any nonfiction stuff, because I do want to dabble in nonfiction as well, as far as self-help and those kind of things, and just some positive things. Because my background, a little bit about my work history, I've been in the mental health field
Okay,
or human service field for like 21, 22 years now. So pretty
okay,
much all of my life, half my life, I've been dealing with mental health,
okay,
and
okay,
kind of fell in love with the area. So I didn't think when I was young, getting into it, that I'll be in mental health this long, but just the helping people, helping youth, because my main focus is the children and teenagers, but I do help adults as well. So just helping youth deal with their mental health, and that also is in a lot of my writing. So I love mental health, and I love making sure that we as African Americans are taking care of ourselves, because that's still a little taboo in some of our
mm.
communities. So
Absolutely,
we want
absolutely.
to definitely continue to address it. So that's pretty much my background, where I came from in writing, and why I'm still writing, because I have a love for it, and it allows me to incorporate mental health components to it. So
Oh no, that's cool. That's cool. Two things I do want to do a shout out to Alyssa.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely,
yes,
absolutely, absolutely phenomenal, phenomenal young lady doing some big
yes.
things. So shout out to her. And then I appreciate what you said about paying homage to your father
Hmm.
with your name, because I do the same thing because I'm a junior.
Right,
So when I say my name and people, they kind of saying your full name, yeah, Leroy McKenzie Jr. And I
right.
put the junior on it because I am my father's legacy, because my father passed away in 2012. So
Yes,
that's part of me, paying homage to him, is always making sure that that junior's on there to let people know, hey, there was somebody that came before me that
right.
I am because of him. So I think that's really cool. that you do that. Now, I want to ask you something about you. You said you started off under the pen name, and that was going to be one of my questions. So I'm going to start with that one about the HM Trey.
Right.
Now, in the industry, but correct me if I'm wrong, but that's called a pseudonym or a
Right.
pseudonym. Now, what made you do that in the beginning? Was there a particular reason that you wanted to just kind of do that, and then you branched off into coming with your real name? Was there a particular strategy with doing that?
Well, it wasn't necessarily a strategy. I was just looking across the industry and kind of seeing how, the different people and how they wrote and those kind of things. So I knew I wanted to have something with my name in it.
Okay.
But, being that I work in the mental health field, I'm dealing with kids and sometimes parents and those kind of things that try to look you up and those kind of things. So I try to keep certain things separate. So that was my way of, in the beginning, keeping things a little separate. I had my writing, and then I
Okay.
had my work, my professional job. So I just want to kind of keep it separate, but I also wanted to keep my name in there. So most people, they figured out what it meant, but then there's some that didn't. They had the aha moment where when I say, okay, it's just Hurley Morgan the third, and and then they was like, oh, okay. And which I thought it didn't take me long to come up with it, but once I
Okay.
got it, it's like, you know what, that's it right there. I'm going to go with that because, and it's funny when you say paying homage to your parents, because I remember growing up with the name Hurley. I'm like, I was the only one around for miles with the name outside of my dad. And anytime I came in contact with a person, first name was Hurley, I had to stop them and say, you know what, me and you have something in common because it's rare. So it's an old name, and I remember talking about like, why did y'all name me this name and all that good stuff. But it grew on me as I got older, as I become an adult. Especially my father did pass away in 2014 as well, so it definitely means a whole lot to me now so than ever.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's great that you're able to actually do that, and those of us, especially, it's a special thing when you, because you said you're the third,
Right,
so the juniors and the thirds, when we come along, and we know that we're carrying on that the exact same name. It's not even that
right,
it's the family name or the last name, but the
right.
whole that whole the whole name. Because I never forget my mom and my dad, they both told me. My mother wanted to name me Harold, and my and my dad, wanted me to be named after him. I was like, Dad, I'm glad you won that one.
Right, right.
I said, but that's cool. I want to ask you this, because you talked about how you got started writing. Now, throughout your writing journey, have you? Cause my thing this week has been, I've been trying to, my focus has been on helping people
Right.
to develop, whether it's writing, their businesses and everything like that is in development. And I want to ask you, and I wanted to make sure that that I asked this question to you. Have you developed a writing? Was there a writing process that you developed, or is there a particular kind of system that you kind of got into in order to be
Right.
able to assist you in being able to write the novels that you've written?
Yeah, I mean, of course. Each for me, each seems like each novel, I grow a little bit. I keep my mind open as far as, because I'm a perfectionist, and I know that when we talk about, if you have that spiritual background, no one is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
my job is to in my mindset is, I know I will never be perfect, but I'm always striving to that.
Absolutely.
So for me, it's always about development and
Mm-hmm.
always about, never take for granted the individuals that you have when you're writing that give you, nuggets of information. So for me, starting off, it was I had no clue what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted to put some words together and form a
Right.
book, and I didn't even know whether or not I wrote the book correctly. So that's when I started doing, my own research. What do I need to do next? I might need to get an editor. So my editor that I chose, it was a blessing in that, because I utilized Facebook, and I just threw out the question, anybody knows an editor?
Okay.
So I
Okay.
don't even remember the person who sent me the information, but they say you need to check out this person named Lorraine Elzia. I was like,
Okay.
oh, okay. So I inboxed her. She pretty much told me what it was, and we've been connected since really 2000 and maybe 10 when
Hmm.
I started the editing of the book. So we've been connected for almost a decade now, really, on all of my books. So I knew that I had to have that piece, and I knew that I couldn't allow for what she said to hurt. If she had gave me a critical point, I
Hmm.
took it and ran with it instead of like soaking in it. I was like, you know what, that's good information. I'm going to incorporate that in my writing. So as I write now, the system that I use, it depends on. I guess it depends on the mood that I'm in when I start
Okay.
a new book. Because for me, when I'm writing a book, once I'm done with the book, it's almost like you're in a relationship with the book while you're writing.
Mm.
Then once it's done, I pretty much divorce the book. It's like I'm done with you for now. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I'm sick of you. So because I put so much energy and so much,
Yeah.
emotion in the writing. Because I guess I call myself a soul writer. I write from the soul. I write
Mm.
from within. So I put a lot of emotion in what I'm doing. So and that's with anything that I do in life. So when I'm writing now, sometimes I use an outline. Most of the time now, I use an outline. Like
Okay.
the next 5 books that I have that lined up, all of them, I took the time to create an outline, so I know how many chapters it is. I know what the
Oh,
chapter is going to be about, so it keeps me organized in the book, so I'm not writing all over the place. And
okay.
then how I write the book, sometimes I go chapter to chapter, depends, because I too now still get writer's block. Why? Because we on coronavirus. We stuck in the house, and I'm always on the computer. So my brain is just freezes up sometimes, just like a computer sometimes. So I know that I have to take breaks. So my system is it varies from book to book. But what I hold true is the fact that I now I do the outline, and I rely on the information from my editor. And then when I pass the book on to Elisa, by the time she gets it, she keeps me grounded as far as keep me going.
Hmm.
Sometimes being that I'm that perfectionist. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how good that book is, and I don't know how good this is. And she's like, no, you need to stop right there. So keep me level-headed. So I have both extremes. I have an editor that keeps me whole, and I had a publisher that keeps me whole. So I utilize
Mm.
both of them when I'm writing. So if you're fortunate enough to connect with both, like if you're writing, even if you're self-publishing, or you're doing your own thing, you wanna have somebody that's looking over your work, because sometimes even when I read through my work and then I get it back, I've done my stuff and I give it to Lorraine. I'm like, how in the world did I miss that? It's like those fresh eyes. You have fresh
Yeah.
eyes seeing your stuff. So that's pretty much what I do.
Now I want to pick up on something that you just talked about, and it has to do with the team that you have around you. Please tell the viewing audience, and more specifically the authors and aspiring authors that are out there that may be watching or will be watching, how important it is to have a good editor, not just to have an editor, but to have a good editor on your side.
Right. Oh, it's vital. You want someone who's going to be unbiased, no matter what kind of relationship, no matter how long you've known them. You want them
Mhm.
to be blunt. You want them to tell you if it sucks, it sucks, and you just got to be able to take it. Someone who's going to actually tell you the truth about your work, because you don't want to put out something you think is good, because you're gonna get reviews, and your
Right.
reviews are gonna come based on sometimes how the editing are. There are a lot of
Mm.
grammatical errors. There, a lot of sentence structure issues. Those kind of things that you want to make sure that you cover the ground. So it's very vital. Like if you want to be a serious writer, that's the one thing that you need to have in your corner. Sometimes having multiple editors, like having an editor and beta readers, someone who reads your book even after your editor, to
Has gone
see
through it.
how it is. So you might want to make sure you ask them things, because again, everybody is human, and with an editor, sometimes
Absolutely.
when they cleaning up the edits, they may overlook something, and so
Right.
you actually have to have different levels when you talk about. But it's very vital for you to have an editor, and one that you can trust, that will not just give you, oh, your book is good. No, if my book has issues, I need you to tell me it has issues.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think also when you have somebody that is like that, and not just looking for a paycheck, but
Right,
somebody who will actually tell you, it makes you a better writer.
right,
Because you're not just thinking, oh, my stuff is the bomb, and then
right,
when
right, right,
folks read it, they're
right,
like, well, what is this David that this person
right,
is
right,
writing that
right.
really like that? So
And
so
I
that,
will add to that. I will
mhm,
add to that. Even when you have an awesome editor, there's
mhm,
going to be someone out there who's going to review a book and give you a bad review. That's
absolutely
just how it is, because of course, the whole saying, there's haters will hate.
right.
You're always going to have somebody that's going to hate on you, or purposely give you a bad review
Yeah,
based on it. They might not even know you from Adam. They
right.
still will give you that. So again, even with the reviews, don't take them personal, and use those reviews as fuel, to motivate you as well, because you can have a perfectly edited book and you still get a negative review, because it's all
Yeah,
about perception even. So
yeah.
people perceive things differently.
Yeah, and I've always said too, because this is what I do with my clients. I have them, as the author. I'll have them go through it as well, because,
Right,
and I tell them, I said I do that because I know each time you as a writer go through it, you're gonna see something different.
right,
You'll see
right.
something. Oh, I should have said this, or I should have did that. I didn't want to say this, or I didn't want to say that. I said, so you'll go through it a couple of times because I want you to be able to see that, and each time
Hmm.
you'll see something different with it. You'll
Right,
get something that you might or might not want to change. And that's what to me, what the editing process
right,
is. It's so that you can, tweak it and figure out what works, what doesn't work. And then when you say, okay, we've gone through it enough. Let it is what it is. We make sure that we fine tuned it as far as getting all of the grammatical stuff
right.
correct and all of
Hmm.
those things. But they're going to be things that that you just always think that could be better, said,
Right.
should have sounded better, and all of those things. So, but I tell them not to, that's a part of that process and everything like
And I
that.
can
So,
and I can even add to that,
mhm.
because my very first book, The Wedding Man, I went back through and redid that book. I
Okay.
redid it because the wedding man was done again under Arthur House. That was my very first book.
Hmm.
So what I did was I redid everything about that book. I
Okay.
redid the cover, I redid
Hmm.
the name, and released it under Peace in the Storm under Elisa.
Okay.
The book is way better because I was writing in a very, very green eyes at that point in time. So my writing has developed over and when I was going back through that book years later, I was like, what in the world did I do here? I'm like, okay, let me fix that. And so I can even tell now with the reviews that come from the second coming of that book that I did a better job with it because of a new, more advanced eyes. The eyes that I've learned so much over the years. I'm able to recognize my own error, and even with me doing it, I redid. I sent it back to editing yet again.
Mhm.
So the book was redone and re-edited. So so that that's how serious I was when I knew I wanted to make this book better.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you said, how many books have you written total?
Well, I have 8 books, and
Okay.
7 of them are under Peace in the Storm.
Okay. Now, can you give the audience an idea of the range or the genres of those books? Do a couple of them a series? Is any of these a book
Right,
series that people can
right.
can follow along and
Um,
everything?
my second and third book are actually a part of a series. It's a 3-book series to that.
Okay.
The names are different, but I let when I advertise for the book, I let them know it's a series.
Mm, mm.
Um, a couple of the books are in series. The one that I redone is a standalone, but I could follow up because of how I develop my characters in a way where certain characters in certain book can branch off and have
Mm.
their own book.
Okay.
So
Ah.
that's pretty much what. because even in my last book, which is a Christian fiction book, and
Mm.
then the series with the three-part trilogy is what I call them, which is contemporary romance. They have a character in there, which is a psychologist, a doctor. Again, the whole therapy piece that I could put into all my books, that
Okay.
she will eventually have her own book, but she's able to fit under both genres based on how her character is
Mm.
doing. So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, so that is all about character development for me. I got to make sure my character, and that's one of the things that Lorraine has taught me over the years. You want to flesh out your characters to where when somebody's reading the book, they can, one, relate to the character,
Right.
or they can see the realness behind the character.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now let's talk about your latest book, The Flowers in the Garden. Tell us a little bit about that, what that book is about, and the character in it, and all of those things.
okay. Flowers in Her Garden is my first stab at Christian fiction,
Oh, okay.
which
Okay.
it went really well. I really enjoyed writing the book because again, it talks about things that that's ingrained in me already. You know, my faith base.
Okay.
So growing up, it wasn't hard for me to write a book such as that because of my spirituality. So incorporating that type of book. So and again, it has those components of mental health. So in the book, there's a lot of different things that you can if you have a discussion about the book, there's a lot
Mm.
of different areas that you can discuss, especially in the African American community.
Okay.
There's talks about mental health. There's
Hmm.
talks about grief and loss and the issues that we sometimes have with grief and loss. There's again, talks about spirituality and having faith and all that good stuff, and knowing that there is a chance that there is good everywhere. We just got to be able to seek it out
Right.
and help develop it sometimes. And then there's also the whole knowledge of love and being, love is, if you are spiritual or if you're not, love can unite a lot of different people in different areas. So the book is basically about a young lady who was raised by her grandmother. Again,
Hmm.
in the African American community, we see a lot of that. We see a lot of grandparents raising kids, and but the character struggle was, it wasn't that she had parents that were necessarily absentee. She had parents that were influent. Her mother was, the mother of the book was, she's a judge, and then the daddy is a surgeon. So
Oh, wow.
careers, their careers
Okay.
were demanding and took them away from the child a little bit.
Hmm.
They were, they both of them are in the church. However, it still took them away where grandmother stepped in, and grandmother's love and all that good stuff was what cultivated the character of this young lady, which the name of the book, Flowers in the Garden, is centered around grandmother's garden, basically. And the time that she spent in the garden with her grandmother, learning things in the garden with her grandmother, to the point where she finally went her own way and became a therapist. And the reason why she became a therapist was, how she felt with absentee parents, that connectivity that she didn't have with her parents, so it stressed her, caused anxiety, caused depression, and those kind of things. So she had to deal with it. So she chose a career that she wanted to deal with her own self, which her
Hmm.
parents didn't necessarily agree with because
Really?
one was a doctor, one was a lawyer, and sometimes in those situations, some people look down on therapists. This is a
Mm.
therapist. What is it? But therapists are usually the heartbeat of, or could be the heartbeat of our communities if we
Yeah.
just get past that stigma
Right.
of mental health and not trusting people and talking to people when we really need to, because mental health, of course, drives all other health: physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health.
Absolutely.
So so with this character, she became a good therapist, and she had to get past that relationship with her mom. And even mom looked down on her choice of the gentleman that she chose as the boyfriend. And what we do a lot of times in our community as well, we look down on somebody because we have this perception of
Right.
the male character was actually a dump truck driver, but what they didn't
Oh,
realize,
wow.
he had his own business. He was the
Mm.
owner of the company. So, but no one knew that because he didn't discuss that. He let people perceive him how So it's a lot of different things and a lot of character development. So we can kind of see how, as a community, sometimes we look at other people and we judge, prejudge people before, but then there's also underlying issues as to why we are the way we are. Even going to her mother, which looked down on some of the things she did, but we fleshed out her mother's character towards the end of the book and kind of understood, okay, that could have something to do with his mental health. It's all mental health. We do things based on how we are, how we were raised. We didn't grieve like we needed to, and we held on to certain things, so it affected us as we got older or aged in life. So it's a real good book. With like a lot of spiritual references. I quoted Bible verses in it. So it's a real Christian fiction book.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed it. I'm kind of proud of myself for it, because it's actually a book that anybody can read, and I love that fact, and it's just going to be the first of many more that I have going on. So.
And that's excellent. And it sounds like a great story. And like you said, I think it's a story that a lot of, most of us can relate to in some kind of way, whether we're that affluent family, or whether it doesn't even have to be an affluent family, and they don't like the person that you involved with, because they don't look like this, or they don't have this, or they don't have that, and all of those things and everything like that. And that mental health piece is so key, because, and especially right now, because there's always been that, like you said, that stigma that we don't go to see a psychologist or psychiatrist in our communities and everything like that. That's like the taboo of taboos. No, you go to church and you pray it out.
right. And that is one of the things, and that's one of the things that I also stressed in the book, because I hear that a lot. We always talk about the fact that we are spiritual people, and that's what we lean to. But just like I try to explain to everybody, just like somebody has diabetes or hypertension, you're not going to just pray about it. You're still going to go to your doctor. What you need, because if you don't, it's going to affect the body. So the brain is the same thing. It's a muscle just like any other thing, and it gets damaged. It needs help, just like other stuff. So we just have to get past the taboos of it all.
Yeah, I like the way that you put that the brain is just like any other parts of the body that sometimes breaks down and needs help, and has to have a doctor to be able to fix it and everything like that. And if more of us would have that approach to it, I don't think that we would have some of the issues that we have in our community. And like you said, I think our mental health goes into everything, every other aspect of our life, whether it's our physical health with our bodies, even on our job, with the jobs, with our jobs, even the relationships that we get in, all of those things, man. So that sounds really excellent. I want you to talk about, I'll put it this way, talk about H.M. Hurley, Trey, the early author and writer, versus the now seasoned and seven-time author, and what the difference is. What would the now Hurley Morgan tell HM about writing now?
Oh my goodness! I would tell you this story. It was my first book when I was writing with my editor. It was about the content, and she was like, some of the content's a little strong in some of the books that I write. However, Lorraine, and that's why I love her so much, because she, from the beginning, she kept it 100 with me, as far as like, she would question me like, what were you thinking when you wrote this? So in the beginning, when we had a conversation, because it's like, as an author, you're going to have people in your family, you're going to have everybody reading your book. So you want to make sure you present in a way that, does not get people questioning who you are and those kind of things. So she sat me down, and what she said to me, and I'll never forget it. She was like, look, as a writer, you're going to have to think about what you want as a writer. Are you gonna be one that's gonna write and be concerned about what everybody thinks about what you put in your book, the content of your book,
Mm-hmm.
or are you gonna just write? And when she put it that way, she was like, you can just write, and if you're concerned about what people write, it's gonna affect how you write.
Yeah.
You're gonna water down like certain issues in your book. Like again, I'm a soul writer, so I'm putting it all on the table. And if I'm concerned about hurting someone's feelings in the writing,
Mm-hmm.
I might not need to write. And that's even when I turn the corner into my nonfiction stuff, like dealing with Men of Faith magazine and those kind of things. I'm gonna write what I feel, and it's almost like if I'm stepping on, it's kind of like a path. If I'm stepping on your toes, then maybe I'm doing the right thing.
Mm.
So with that, as a young writer, I had to develop that shell as far as not mattering who reads the book. I don't, it's like anybody can read the book and have their own opinion about it. And
Right.
sometimes I let them know, okay, you might not want to read that one. This one is good for you to read. Yeah, you can go ahead and read that one.
Mm-hmm.
But again, my how I write now is, and that's another reason why I've evolved into pretty much having Hurley Morgan versus HM Trey, because I know I want to write everything. I want to be involved in everything because I love writing, and it's like the messages I want to put out there. I want to put out a message for anybody can read. I want to capture anybody's attention. But some people, just like with church, the issue that we have now with church is sometimes the older generations don't know how to connect with the newer generation.
Right.
So
absolutely.
how are you going to bring the newer generation in the church if you don't relate to them? So you got to be able to get them to make it younger, to make it quote unquote more hip hopish, so they come into the church and be able to fit in and feel comfortable in it. Because again, it's a great divide. You got different eras of people. So that's pretty much how I write as well. It's like, I know that I'm going to have to cater to whatever audience it is. I know who likes what and why I need to write it. So as I got older and the more I listened to Lorraine, she's developed me as a writer as to a point where, I know now when I'm reading over a book that before I send it to her, Lorraine is going to tell me not to do that. So I know now what, I have an eye for it right now. So, and it even has helped me as far as me reading other people's stuff, knowing what she does helps me guide other people. So, anybody any type of advice when it comes down to writing, because of the fact that I love, she was a God fan. I looked up, got a great person, that relate to me and keep me honest. So, and that's one of the things early on, she kept me honest. She's like, if you're going to write content, you write the content. And then you reap the consequences afterwards. You write the content how you feel you write it. So and as a writer, even poetry, writing novels, writing thesis papers, trying to get a point across, you have to be real in the paper and not sugarcoat what your message is, because a diluted message is going to go nowhere.
Yeah, and that's so true. Because I write poetry as well. I have 3 books, and the one thing that I do, my other stuff is nonfiction, but that poetry the poetry that I write, like you said, I can write about anything in there, and I can't be concerned about how people are going to perceive it, because some of it's going to be some of it's going to be controversial, some of it's going to be kind of very passionate, but and honestly, that's who we are as humans. So, and that's the only way, to me, that readers are going to be able to connect with you, because I say that readers connect with us, and not just readers, but I'm talking in business but with books, but tell others that they connect with you in one or either all 4 or just 4 different ways. That's your mission, your message, your movement, or your motivation. You have to connect with them in at least one of those different ways. in order for them to really want to become followers of you, to become someone who becomes a loyal reader of your work and everything like that. There has to be something that they can connect to. And if they don't connect to you, if they can't connect to you some kind of way, then then you might want to reevaluate being a writer.
Right.
I mean,
and that's the truth. Like, and again, and even going to being able to accept constructive criticism of your work is very important, because if people are not giving you the real about how they feel about it, and you just putting out work and you thinking it's good, somebody's going to come along and going to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Really want to make sure that you have people in your corner that's going to be very constructive with their criticism. You have to be able to accept it.
Right, and I say that too, not just as a writer, but also an entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur and everything too. You can't be thin-skinned. You have to be able to accept constructive criticism, because as we said, none of us are perfect. So there are things you take into consideration what the individual is telling you, and you go back and you evaluate it. And you say, wow, is this something that I know that that I need to work on? Is something that is legitimate? Or even if they may be saying it, like you said, we have those haters that are just saying to say it, you can brush shoulder off and keep it moving. But if it's something that you know what, I do kind of do that, or I do kind of need to stop that. I have to, you have to be honest with you, because if you can't be honest with you, then you can't expect anyone else to be honest with you either.
Right.
So you gotta really take that on. So tell me what's next for Hurley Morgan. What's next? What you got? What you have working on, or are you working on now that you?
Well, like I said, like at the end of last year when I came out with some, the before the flowers dropped, and the flowers was sitting in what I called my docket of what's coming up next, and I know it was ready to go to editing and those kind of things, and I was just sitting on it for a little bit. So I came up with different storylines. So I have pretty much 4 or 5 novels in the queue. And it's ranging from the contemporary romance to urban lit to more Christian fiction, because again, like I said, I really enjoy that genre, because it's kind of like therapy as well for me when I'm going through and I'm writing a book, and if I'm going to a point, especially the Christian fiction, I'm getting to a point to where I need to reference a verse, so it keeps me also entitled in the word, and so I'm able to kind of do the best of all worlds, really. So I have probably about, again, my goal is to release 3 to 4 more novels this year.
Oh wow!
I never understand how some of these people are releasing a novel a month, and it's like I look at them and have like 60 books released. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work.
Yeah. I don't know how people do it. When they talk about you can write a book in 30 days or 15 days, I'm like, I can't do it either.
It's like my focus. I guess if I wasn't, I guess have that ADD type thing going. If I can remain focused, because again, I'm doing, and I guess these are people who do the writing full time, but I don't do it full time. So I when I write when I can. Sometimes when I sit down in front of the computer, I can't get a paragraph, let alone a chapter out because of the mental block. So sometimes I stretch it out, and I'm okay with that because I take quality over quantity anytime.
Me too. Any day, every day, all day, and twice on Sundays with it. You know what I'm saying? So, and you said something that's that I think is important, and I'll get to the last thing where you give your contact. Where I want you to give your contact information where people can purchase not just the latest book, but they can purchase any of the books that you have out there and everything. But you said something that I think that I tell authors, and I tell my clients too, that I think you should always have. You should have a book that's out. You should have one that you're working on. And then you should have one that you're getting ready to work on. It's kind of like you said, in the chamber, because there should be this cycle. I know for myself, there should be this cycle that you create for yourself, where
Right.
there's always something that you're working on. There's something that's always going on with your book, because
Mhm.
once that one book is done, you may be promoting it and everything like that.
Right.
You should have that next one that you, hey, I'm just about finished with this one, or I'm finished with it, got the editing going, and that one is ready to follow. And how important that is for,
Right.
for an author, and being able to just grow your brand, grow
Right.
you yourself, and then you as a brand, as an author, and as a writer and everything like that. So I think that's really key. And I hope that the viewing audience understands that, how important that is, that you should have those three aspects of your of your writing process of
Right.
developing books, or a book and books in your mental Rolodex, and hopefully you'll write it down too. So
Right.
tell everybody how they can purchase the books, but then also how they can connect with you, specifically like book clubs that want to have you come to be a part of the book clubs, or book clubs that can get your book, have you, well, right now we can't go nowhere, so it'll be a
Right.
virtual
Right.
where you can do the virtual book club and everything like that, to talk about the different books that you have out there.
Okay. Well, of course, social media, Facebook. On Facebook, I have, I've even separated the brand a little bit, where I have
Okay.
an HM Trey
Mm-hmm.
fan page, or author page, what I call it, and then I have an author Hurley Morgan author page,
Oh, cool.
that you can go to, and that's where I try to spread my information on those pages as well.
Okay.
I'm of course on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is very important for writers to
Mm.
be able to connect with other writers and those
Really?
kinds of
Okay.
things. And
Okay.
so LinkedIn is a good avenue as well.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as purchasing, of course, you can find it on Amazon. Now, Lisa is actually getting me prepped for other avenues as well. I know some of my books you can purchase on the Walmart
Mm-hmm.
website. Some of my books can be purchased on the Barnes and Noble's website. Nook, that you can get it from those kind of people who still use Nook.
Mm.
But mainly Amazon, under author Hurley Morgan and HM Trey. Of course, the one book now that I have released under author Hurley Morgan is under Amazon by itself. I have actually, and this is for any author who wants to brand themselves. Amazon also gives you the opportunity to have author pages where you can have a link to give somebody, and once they get to that link, you can pull up all their books onto that
Mm-hmm.
link. So HM Trey has a link, and author Hurley Morgan has a link. And then the other area is Goodreads. I made a lot of connections on Goodreads. There's
Okay.
authors on Goodreads. There's readers on Goodreads, and I go through and befriend a lot of people and have conversations, suggest my books and those kind of things. So that's where I've gotten some readership from as well. So
Okay.
those are the areas where you can definitely find HM Trey or author Hurley Morgan.
No, that is awesome. I want to thank you for taking time out, like I said, time out to come and share and giving some of your knowledge, some of your knowledge, your information, and even just some insight as to what it is to be a writer, and being a writer, creating content that that goes over different genres, which I think
Right.
is very interesting in and of itself, and the approach that you have to, and the different type of approach that you have to have
Right.
for each of them. So I appreciate you for taking time out. The author showcase, and I told her name is Cherish McMillan. She was the last guest that we had as well. But I was telling her, I said, when I first did this, when I first came to National Black Unity, and we talked about what we could do for authors and everything like that, because they were big on the community and bringing people
Right.
into the community. And I was just like, man, and they were like, well, you have you do stuff with authors. I was like, yeah, well, let's do this. And when I talked about doing the video aspect of it, not just
Yes.
the interview, but the video aspect of it and adding the content, they were like, oh, we love that. And sitting to actually getting to talk with you all has been a
Right.
joy for me, because it's given me even more insight into writing.
Right. Right.
Which I'm hoping that transfers into the viewers that will watch
Yes.
this and everything like that. And I wanted to actually do that, and you all have far exceeded my expectation for this, because I just get I get something out of it each time that I've sat down and talked with you all just about your writing, about your books,
Yep.
about your messages, because every single one of you all has had a different mission, a
Right.
different message, a different type of motivation behind it, and even the movement, the movement that some of you all have created behind your book, your books that you all have. So I appreciate you. I thank you for taking time out to talk with us at the National Black Unity News, the Author Showcase. And we want to make sure one more time, just give the information where people can connect with you, contact you, and then I'll close this out.
All right. Yes, definitely can contact me on Facebook. I love chatting with people. So if you want to talk, ask questions, feel free to friend me on Facebook under Hurley Morgan. Again, you can find me also on my author pages, HM Trey author page on Facebook and author Hurley Morgan page on Facebook. And I'm on Instagram under HM Trey and Twitter under HM Trey and LinkedIn under Hurley Morgan.
Cool, cool. So this has been the Authors Showcase, brought to you by the National Black Unity News. And you can check out authors such as Author Hurley or H.M. Trey, and all of the others authors that we have featured in the Author Showcase in the newspaper. And you can subscribe to the newspaper at www.tnbun.com. Go there, you can subscribe, get the newspaper, because he is in the current issue of the National Black Unity News newspaper in the Author Showcase section of the paper. So we want you to go subscribe, and then you can go over to the YouTube channel as well, and you can see not just this interview, but you can also see other interviews of all of the other authors that we've had that have been a part of the Author Showcase. You can go to the Facebook page, the National Black Unity News newspaper. All of the authors that we've had that have been a part of the showcase are featured in there, that are on there. So you can go and see what that's all about, see what the newspaper is all about. So we want to thank y'all for tuning in. It's your boy, Leroy McKenzie. And as I say, this is 2020. We move we move fast and furious, move with passion and purpose. And I always say, chase the impact, because when you chase the impact, you change the world. And these are some authors, these are some writers that are impacting the world because they're changing the world one letter, one chapter at a time. So we'll talk to y'all soon. See y'all
Right.
next time.